of mass recertification. Two, starting in 2017, a requirement that PATH families must reapply to the program after 3.5 years of participation. Three, PATH families still eligible for PATH after recertification will continue to receive cash grants. Cabinet also gave approval for drafted instructions to be given for the repeal of the Road Maintenance Act of 2002 and the amendment of Section 15, subsection 3 of the Road Traffic Act that provided for the payment of 33.33% of license duties on motor vehicles to the RMF. And that would also include the transfer of the functions of the Road Maintenance Fund, RMF, to the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. It also will mean that there will be transfer of assets of the Rapid Response Program from the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation to local authorities. And finally, in terms of cabinet matters, in terms of award of contracts, the award of contract in the amount of US $1,687,667.82 to Carlung Publishers Caribbean Limited for the procurement and distribution of primary textbooks for students of grades 1 to 3 across the island under the primary textbook program for 2017-2018. There was also an award of contract approved for the amount of $99,426,475 to Surrey Paving and Aggregate Company Limited for the construction of a fifth form block at the Mount St. Joseph Catholic High School in Manchester. Amendments to procurement arrangement for bulk fuel supplies to ministries, departments, and agencies of government for the period July 1, 2017 to the 30th of June, 2019 was also approved. I would just like to update you on two quick matters before I hand over to Minister Henry for his update. Many of you would recall that the government have been having dialogue in regards to what we call the National Digital Switchover, DSO. And by way of background, global standards for broadcast distribution have migrated or are migrating from analog transmission to digital and high-definition transmission. The use of digital technologies will lead to improvement in the efficiency of many production, content, and distribution transportation operations, and produces a better quality audio and audiovisual product for broadcast or other media dissemination, and enhances the viewer consumer experience, including interactivity, additional channels and audio description and subtitling for persons with visual and hearing impairments, as well as access to broadband, telephony, and other services. Now, a National Digital Switchover Committee was in fact established in 2009 to see to Jamaica's successful transition from analog to digital transmission. The committee is now chaired by me, who is supported by co-chairman Professor Anthony Clayton, the new chairman of the Broadcasting Commission, and Honorable Lester Spalding, chairman of the RGR Gleaner Group, and the chairman of the Jamaica Association of Community Cable Operators, Mr. Anthony Graham. The broader membership of the committee is representative of the affected industries and stakeholders, including free-to-air, cable, and retailers, as well as the related regulators, to include the Spectrum Management Authority, as well as the Consumer Affairs Commission, and representatives of other government entities. The Broadcasting Commission continues to provide secretariat services. The National Digital Switchover Steering Committee met on the 1st of June this year, and a presentation from its technical committee was received. The substantive work being carried out by this committee will guide Jamaica in its digital switchover process, which is targeted to take full effect in 2021. There are 3 subcommittees, and they include Technical Subcommittee, Policy Committee, and Business Model and Executive Committee. And recommendations flowing from the various streams of work, including technology standards, licensing framework, service proposition, business model and financing, frequency plan, and an analog switchover plan. These recommendations will be made to Cabinet from time to time on these matters, and in parallel, I will take to Cabinet existing recommendations to provide enabling provisions in the Broadcasting and Radio Rediffusion Act, conferring on the Minister the power to, among other things, introduce dates for digital switch-over commencement and analog switch-off, as well as specify the related standards. Make transitional arrangement as may emerge as necessary for analog switch-off and digital switch-over, example, licensing and the digital switch-over standard, and to introduce dates by which retailers should cease the importation of analog television sets. It is also contemplated that there will be legislative provisions for powers to be conferred on the Commission to, among other things, that is the Broadcasting Commission, allow for the issuing of directives to address a range of matters, including anti-dumping considerations and the disposition of analog sets, and make administrative arrangement as may emerge as necessary for analog switch off and digital switch over. And finally, just also want to give an update in regards to the other hat that I wear, the Ministry of Education and Youth, that in regards to our program of payments to school, we are up to date, and you recall my last update is that we concluded the fourth payment of the last financial year in April, and for the new financial year, which will cross over in the new academic year, we have made our first payment a couple of days ago to all secondary schools, over $1.415 billion. And all schools that are due for funding from the government by virtue of schedule, all those payments have been made from early childhood to high school. All PATH payments, feeding payments, and other grants have been made. Also just want to signal that we are doing everything earlier than normally. And so in regards to our furniture, our budget is now $200 million, moving from $75 million to procure 35,000 pieces of furniture for both teacher furniture as well as student furniture. And we are way advanced, and we expect to commence distribution of those furniture before July 31st. So that concludes my presentation this morning. Press Secretary, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and may I welcome the very beautiful permanent, that is the advisor. Well, you look like Orgy this morning. Advisor Sharon Hay Webster, the beautiful advisor Sharon Hay Webster, and Ms. Barbara Allen, my Director of Policy and Planning, Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, Minister. Very nice flattery to start the morning, right? Thank you, and welcome to our guests as well. So this morning, we have for you Minister Mike Henry, who has joined Senator Roel Reid, just to advise that we'll take all questions after both presentations. And I do know that coming out of Minister Reid's presentation in particular, you may have lots of questions, in particular on the last 2 points that he raised. But going forward, we will invite ministers of government to come give an update on their ministries and make any special announcements that they have. And so at the start, I did point out that last week we were honored in terms of getting to St. Elizabeth to open the GISCO plant, and Minister Henry led that charge. And so this morning we're pleased to have him here at the post-cabinet media briefing. Minister Mike Henry.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Colleague Minister, members of the, was it the Fourth Estate, the Fifth Estate, or the Rail Estate? Which one? Oh, you look so glum. It's good news. I want to feel a cheerful atmosphere that relates to where we're moving. 7 days ago, on the 21st of June, the Prime Minister pressed the button for the restart of Alpart after 9 years of closure. That has already been carried in the news. What may not have been emphasized is that that was carried out 6 months earlier than predicted, that indeed we're ahead of schedule, and it's now right to put it in perspective where we're going with JISCO Alpart and the development of the restart of the mining industry. And I emphasize mining because we're not going to only mine bauxite, we're going to mine a number of other things. But in speaking and focusing on JISCO, the present expenditure today is $300 million in acquisition by JISCO from Rusal. US $60 million and growing is in the restart of the operations. The current employment for 2017, and as I speak to you, is a Jamaican 720, increasing to 800 by the year end. At that point in time, we will be ahead of schedule in terms of even the implementation of the whole labor content. But I thought I would brief you on where we go from there, having started the plant. From 2018 to 2020, there'll be a new 2 million financed aluminum refinery. And I want to re-emphasize all of this is being done with heavy fuel oil and the power plant to be built to create 70 to 80 megawatts. There'll be a new aluminum extrusion plant for aluminum foil within the 2 to 3 years. It'll be JISCO will rehabilitate and upgrade the present refinery with a new power plant and expand Port Kaiser to accommodate part of the Panama Max vessels. They will implement a new transfer of water technology and agricultural technology within the Essex Valley region as a demonstration of current China's area of conquering. And may I remind you that JISCO is located on the edge of the Mongolian desert, and that they have been able to build a whole industrial circular park development producing crops that relate and were not normally grown in that area. So the program for 2017 was a restart of a 1.6 million plant production, which is the one using the heavy oil. The new power plant to come will be approximately 80 megawatts. They will refurbish the line plant to provide caustic soda for refining. They'll refurbish and upgrade the rail link to Port Kaiser with 2 new locomotives, which are now in the island and are functioning at Alpart. They will refurbish and reopen the Port Kaiser plant to receive the larger ships after dredging and expansion. So in 2018 to 2020, the estimated expenditure to complete the project now in development should probably amount to about US $2 billion. Employment for then Jamaica will increase to about 1,000 people, and additional employment in contractors and service providers is expected to be over 1,000. Then you move to the area of 2020-25, when we'll see the development of an industrial park, which will likely double the present investment from 3 billion to 4 billion, from 2 billion to 3 to 4 billion additional. The employment anticipated to be up to 10,000 with full development of an industrial park. The industrial park will have to be looked at in the context of the Prime Minister announced looking at it under the China One Belt, One Road policy. Correspondingly, we'll be looking at how we connect that with the air aspects to be developed at Vernon Field at the other level of connecting the movement of goods and service in a logistics movement across the world. In that context, therefore, the Circular Economic Industrial Park of the JISCO Group will be continued to be implemented. There's about 20 to 30 Chinese experts on the ground looking at the different developments that will relate to the various areas that surround St. Elizabeth, your Magotty, or Santa Cruz, all the areas, because we have to integrate the development of the country by the connectivity of road, rail, sea, and air, and then connect to the rest of the world. So I'm happy to say it's implementation time. You're aware that I'm a 1357 minister, which means you inherit something from someone, you stamp your imprimatur on it in year 2, in year 1, you implement in year 2, you deliver to the public in year 3, and then you take on my political hat and re-elect me in year 4 or 5, and then we continue the development which was once interrupted for a short period of time. So that's what 1357 means. And as you say, if I'm an old man in a hurry, before I arrived at the stage of my life, because it was planned to be opened on the 18th of June, which was my birthday, I'm now letting everyone know I'm not just in a hurry now, I'm in a sprint run with Usain Bolt, because in the departure lounge you have to know which plane you're going to catch and how quickly. So in that context, I've delivered something that started and wasn't analyzed, was not completed, and we have completed that, we have implemented it. It's now functional. The chairman of GISCO left only 2 days ago, and we continue now the development which will move forward, as I have just announced, as we move and expand the growth of not just St. Elizabeth, but the whole plains of Middlesex, which must be connected to the rest of the world and implement the movement of goods and services. I don't think I need to say any more. If there are any questions that you wish to ask, I will seek to answer them, but we'll continue with further conferences in relation to each stage of development. Thank you very much, and I hope that I brought some good news to you. But certainly St. Elizabeth, Nain, and all of that area is responding very favorably. Because at the moment, I can really say the mining industry has reintroduced and employed 3,000 people since we took over a year plus ago. And therefore, that's not a promise. At the stage of my life, I can't promise, I have to fulfill. Thank you very, very much, and if you have any questions, I'm prepared to answer them.
Thank you so much, Minister Mike Henry, for that update on the GISCO opening. And now, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, I turn over to you in terms of your questions. There's a microphone going around, and you know the usual. Raise your hand, wait to be identified, identify your media entity, and state your name and your questions. I see Alfia. Yes, go ahead, Alfia.
Good morning. Alfia Saunders from the Jamaica Observer. I have a question for Minister Henry. It is outside of your presentation, so hopefully you're able to. Can you give us an update on the Portmore Transportation Center?
Sure. Yes, please.
The Portmore Transportation Center, all the regulatory issues, all the investigation that relates to its economic impact is now complete. And in October or November, we should be accommodated within the fiscal space of the budget to begin that implementation. The Ministry of Finance is finalizing now the loan portfolio, which was inherited as part of the Portmore development. The Portmore hub development is going to be very important to what we are pursuing in relation to climate, in relation to environment. Because what I've done with the Portmore hub is to upgrade it equally, to begin to look at accommodated hybrid buses. Because then you will move from the heavy fuel oil at high cost, and you begin to also impact on the climate overall and the emissions policy which the government is now pursuing. So you should have more concrete news of when we break ground, when we start, somewhere around October, November.
Okay, and you're still working with the original budget?
Everything that I have inherited, I'm keeping but improving on. Because you must remember, Portmore is ripe to be a smart city. We have to begin to deal with the Ubers of the world and that kind of manifestation in the transport system. So it is a climate change area of Portmore that is located. The designs and everything have flow within the community, and we will be implementing the Portmore hub. At which point, as I said, I'm now looking at what can we use as fuel to reduce the costs of the JUTC to make it more profitable.
Can you give us some timelines, though, Minister?
I just said October, November is when we are to be accommodated within the structure and then to move to break ground. The Ministry of Finance is in the process of refining the loan portfolio structure that we inherited as government to be able to make sure it fits within the growth pattern and the whole IMF agreements that we have. I just might want to add we have other meetings for connective government in the sense that, as you may have heard the Prime Minister speak about tri-rail, I'm looking at monorail too. I'm looking at the connectivity, because if we don't use airspace too, then we will find that the costs are too heavy for us. And I say that because we have to move from the most heavily roaded country next to Japan in the world to one that integrates the movement of transport at the economic levels we can afford.
Thank you, Minister Henry. Questions? Yes, Edmund. Yes, can we have that mic up? Yes.
Minister Reid, morning again. Just a little additional information on the sale of lands by SCG Holdings Limited. You indicate here the investors, New Era Homes, Malark, and ALF Investments Limited. Could you, apart from New Era Homes, you know that they'll be selling back some of these lots, but what's the purpose of the other two? What are those two investors planning to do? Do you have any idea? And secondly, where exactly in St. Catherine are these lands? Could you identify for us?
All right, thank you, Edmund. Minister? He refers specifically to, in terms of the release that we have given out, the approval by Cabinet on page 2.
Yes.
All right? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, sure. Minister.
Right, I was trying to get for you the exact location of those land, but certainly it's beyond Old Harbor. I'll give you I'll send you the actual, I'll email you the precise location, but it's going towards Old Harbor area. Now I mentioned about, well, we spoke about New Era Homes, and that will be utilized for the construction of residential home. But as I mentioned before, these lands are not prime agricultural land. These are lands that really have not been in agricultural production for some time. We mentioned about the Megamart Club. They are, however, trying to utilize some of that for like BPO activities and so on. So both housing and commercial centers will be established, and I know that there is a contemplation for a BPO facility to be established as part of the development. Okay?
Sorry, any other questions that members of the media may have? Yes.
Herman Green,
Yes.
TVJ. Minister Reid, as it relates to the switchover, the lock off of analog and the switch on of digital, can you give us some, I'm not sure if you stated it before, exactly the date, the time frame we're working with, as it relates to preventing the dumping of analog stuff in Jamaica?
I'm happy you asked that because it certainly affects the media generally, right? Okay.
All right, well, thank you. What I did say is that we're having a discussion with our stakeholders as part of the work of the committee. And then we're going to take the recommendation to Cabinet. And once Cabinet sign off based on our submission, then we can indicate the timelines. And I did mention that part of the remit of the committee is to make recommendations in terms of not only the switchover, but the timeline in terms of how we're going to dispose of and how we're going to manage the whole activities relating to the switchover.
My concern is because with this statement now,
Yes.
sales may very well, or shipment may very well increase between now and that announcement of analog televisions to Jamaica.
And hence that is why I have raised this issue here and from now to signal, because this is not a new policy. This is an inherited policy that we are advancing. So there was a discussion about setting 2018 as the date to commence switch over. Now, I have not pursued that and have discussion with the cabinet in terms of arriving at that position. We are doing a consultation, but again, I'm signaling to the country that that is a direction that the country is heading, and so we have to prepare. So our recommendation certainly would be to procure television sets that are consistent with the futuristic digital technology. But the Consumer Affairs Commission that is part of the committee will be fully sensitized, and as soon as we have signed off with cabinet, we will have full public information and campaign, so we are very clear. So I will seek to have that matter cleared up in the shortest possible time and have the kind of information that the public requires.
Any other questions that you may have, ladies and gentlemen of the media? Herman again, yes. Where's the microphone for you, Herman? Okay, yes.
All right, as it relates to the zones of operations, let's say debate for now. Yesterday, the opposition raised some concern about the rush with which it was being passed through that committee and for Parliament. They basically questioned the effectiveness of the debates on implementing this. Any comment from the government as it relates to why the rush now, as it is described by the opposition?
Sorry, just to clarify, Herman, is it the rush for the debates or the rush?
The rush through the committee.
The committee, that's what you're asking, okay. Minister?
And the impact on the outcome of the whole debate and implementation.
Thank you again, Herman. The Prime Minister responded quite appropriately to the concerns that have been raised. The truth is that we're in a situation of heightened criminal activity, and the entire country has been calling on the government to be decisive and to act. And this legislation was tabled, as you know, 4 months ago, referred to a joint select committee. Committee didn't meet, but as the explanation that was given, because we are having the sectoral debates and so on, and it was very difficult to convene the committee meeting. But the fact is that the intent was very much public. And the cabinet has been discussing the issue of crime and the security issues that have been raised. And the government is being very responsible. We have tried to accommodate all different interest groups into the debate. And, you know, when I watch, for example, what happened from time to time in the United States, people spend a whole 72 hours just working at bills and seek to pass legislation. I think Jamaica needs to get, you know, very often you hear about how long it takes for us to pass legislation over here, you know, why we're pushing it so fast. The Prime Minister again mentioned the responsibility we have as a government to save lives. And every day we delay, there are potential lives that are being lost. We are at a state, and the cabinet is resolute, that we are going to move to make sure that we bring back order and control to those communities that are largely more affected, and the society as a whole that needs to feel very safe and secured, and the government has a duty to ensure that the people of our country feel safe and secure. So we have allowed the mechanism to work, and legislatively the bill will be debated this afternoon in Parliament, and we are looking forward to its passage. And it will be laid in the Senate on Friday. We'll have a sitting of the Senate after the official funeral of Lady Cook. And then next week, Friday, the Senate will debate that bill and seek to have it passed so that that legislation can be enacted, allow the security forces to operate and the social institutions and support mechanisms that are required to rebuild those communities that will be so targeted.
All right, thank you so much, Minister. Any other questions by members of the media? Certainly today has been packed with a lot of information. All right, there being no further questions, may I thank everyone for attending this morning's post-cabinet media briefing. As Minister Reid alluded to, the Parliament will sit this afternoon, and so I'm sure we all will see each other at some point throughout the day, and into next week. We will have another post-cabinet media briefing next week. Until then, have a good day, everybody.
Keep our Jamaican traditions alive via our one-of-a-kind programming, content highlighting our world-famous arts, culture, and heritage. We go the extra mile to keep you informed and educated through our diverse current affairs programs. Programs that make you think, laugh, and bring back those golden memories. Programs for the entire family. The Public Broadcasting Corporation of Jamaica is located right in the heart of Half a Tree at 529 South Oden Avenue, Kingston 10. PBC Jamaica, serving you through our dynamic, diverse, and creative programming. PBC Jamaica, truly the people's station.